we're also seeing seizures. Fred sees $3.36 billion in historic crypto bust found inside Georgia home in a popcorn tin. It is the Department of Justice's second largest financial seizure to date. Federal authorities have seized $3.36 billion in a historic cryptocurrency bust in connection with the Silk Road dark web fraud. The U.S. Attorney's Office of the Southern District of New York announced this week. Now, we've covered Silk Road a couple times on this channel. Silk Road essentially was a way for people to purchase and receive. Basically, think of it like Amazon for illegal items. It could be anything from drugs to guns to whatever you want, right? That's kind of what it was. And really, I think it took a long time for essentially, I suppose, how do you put it? Regulatory bodies and governments to, and the government in general, right, and law enforcement to realize what was happening, figure out how to work, or how to actually track it down and how to actually stop it, right? Funny enough, it's taken many, many years for them to actually get to this point. And then there is discussion surrounding that, should you as a law enforcement agency stop people from purchasing drugs, for example, if it was just drugs or whatever. Because the inventor of the Silk Road initially, just to be clear, was very on the libertarian side of things. I don't think it was initially meant for, and the story is fascinating, by the way. And like I always say, there is great good and great evil in everybody, and it depends on decisions you make throughout your life. That's kind of like how I talk to my kids about this type of thing, right? You can very quickly go down the wrong path, especially when you were doing stuff like this. I don't think that Silk Road was initially invented with ill intention in mind. I don't think it was meant to be used for all of the nefarious things that it was used for. And then there's great debate on whether or not you should really prosecute people for drugs, essentially. So I think that there's that, right? But it took the point here is it took them a long time to catch up, right? And then now they're starting to confiscate, right? The Department of Justice announced Monday it seized about $3.36 billion in stolen Bitcoin during a previously unannounced 2021 raid on the Georgia residence of James Zong, or Hong. Hong pleaded guilty Friday to one count of wire fraud, which carries a maximum sentence of 20 years in prison. The U.S. Attorney's Office announced in a press release. Hong had unlawfully obtained 50,676 Bitcoin, then valued at over $3.36 billion from the Silk Road dark web internet marketplace, authorities say. Silk Road launched in 2011, but the FBI shut it down in 2013. And its founder, Ross William Albright, is now serving a life sentence in prison since 2015 on an unrelated case, CNBC reported. Authorities said they discovered the Bitcoin in Hong's Gainesville, Georgia home during a search of his house in November 9th, 2021. The Bitcoin is found in a circuit board hidden inside a popcorn tin, U.S. Attorney Damian Williams said in a press release. Quote, James Hong committed wire fraud over a decade ago where he stole approximately 50,000 Bitcoin from Silk Road. For almost 10 years, the whereabouts of the massive chunk of missing Bitcoin had ballooned into an over $3.3 billion mystery, end quote, Williams said. Thanks to state-of-the-art cryptocurrency tracing and good old-fashioned police work, law enforcement located and recovered this impressive cache of crime proceeds. This case shows that we won't stop following the money, no matter how expertly hidden, even to a circuit board in the bottom of a popcorn tin. And this should be a warning sign to everybody that's participating within Bitcoin. The Bitcoin maxis out there that always want to say that there is no use for any other currency. Here is the long and short of it. What we are seeing is a regulatory attack on cryptocurrency. That's a fact, right? That's what we're seeing from the SEC right now. We know that that's happening. We know that the White House has announced that they want more regulations surrounding cryptocurrency. And it will probably be the case that cryptocurrency to a certain level for certain citizens under certain circumstances in the US will be restricted, meaning that you will not be allowed to have it. I don't think that the ownership of cryptocurrency in general should find you guilty, right? You should be innocent until proven guilty. Just because you own cryptocurrency does not mean that you are going to do anything illegal with that cryptocurrency. Not any different than having a bunch of cash should basically mean that you were going to do anything illegal with that cash. Problem being, we have a few weird things that are going on here, and this is why we're also going to tie this back into mining for the people that want to pay attention. But first things first is that there is a need for some sort of privacy coins. As a cypherpunk, I would point to privacy coins being something that should be an individual right and utilized to protect the sovereign individual from nation states, meaning that you should be looking at the viability of things like Zcash, Monero, and so on. And just because you want privacy does not mean you are doing anything illegal. And it should not be considered in that manner, even though that is the way it will be presented, hands down. Okay. Secondary to that, if you were to want to talk about any cryptocurrency and how dirty it is, well, then we have a problem, right? Let's say Mr. James here had that 50,000 Bitcoin, and then he ordered something from you, maybe through Coinbase Commerce on your website. Let's say it was, a big dildo, and you just wanted that. I think I bleeped out the wrong word. Let's just say he wanted that for something, and you're a dildo salesman online. He orders that dildo, and it gets sent to his house, and he pays you in Bitcoin that is tied to and been tracked by the FBI to be bad Bitcoin. And then basically the FBI comes to you later and seizes your Bitcoin. You've done nothing wrong. You are legally allowed to manufacture and sell big dildos if you want to sell big dildos. You have the right to do that. There's nothing wrong with that. But because you have tainted Bitcoin that they have traced down and deemed to be part of something illegal, they will confiscate that Bitcoin. So the only way for you to actually obtain pure, clean Bitcoin at the end of the day is to mine it yourself. And that is why mining is important. Authorities say Hong was able to steal the funds from Silk Road by exploiting a flaw in the website's payment system, the BBC reported. In September 2012, he set up several accounts on Silk Road and deposited an amount of Bitcoin into his digital wallets, and then found a way to withdraw far larger amounts rapidly so as not to raise suspicion, BBC reported. It is the Justice Department's second largest financial seizure to date, following its seizure of $3.6 billion in allegedly stolen cryptocurrency linked to the 2016 hack of the crypto exchange Bitfinex, which the DOJ announced in February, CNBC reported. I believe this makes, of course, the federal government one of the largest holders of Bitcoin, the U.S. government, one of the largest holders of Bitcoin. And I do think it'll get extremely interesting here to see how this plays out on the global scale at the end of the day. Meaning that, like, at what point does the government, the nation state holding of Bitcoin, become a global force in the economy, right? At what point do you see Russia versus the US versus China in the amount of Bitcoin they hold as a government? I think that's going to be something that's going to be really interesting. Now, this clip from the Crypto Mining Show, you can check out the full episode here or more crypto content down here. Also, I'd like you to check out my locals page at sonofatech.locals.com, where you can become a member for free or choose to be a $5 a month supporter that unlocks additional content.